unpopular opinions. The body positive movement is being used by the wrong people. All my life I've suffered from low self-esteem due to having body dysmorphia, plus a large chunk of my body is covered in scars. I had trouble fitting in as a child, and when I heard of the body positivity movement I thought it would be a place for people who are a bit different, could embrace their bodies through accidents, birth or other circumstances. But rather it's been coopted by mostly vain fat girls who use it as an excuse to be fat. And honestly, if anyone needs support, it's the girl with cystic fibrosis, not the girl who likes cake. The movement, funny it's called that, is so wrong. As an outsider I just see it exactly how you do. An excuse for unhealthy obese ladies to encourage each other for getting to said unhealthy obesity. It's freaked right up and doesn't hold space, value for people to discuss skin issues, scars, disfigurements. I have skin issues myself, and it makes me insecure. I do wish this body positive movement would speak up more on other body issues and not just weight. Yep. The movement was actually started for the sole purpose of loving your flawed body. Whether it was scarring, vitiligo, missing limbs, etc. It was then hijacked by the fat community, then hijacked even more so that it only includes obese women. Not only that, but this movement puts bigger women into different categories. For example, small fats, size 16-20, medium fats, size 22-24, all the way to death fats. And small fats can't speak over big fats because big fats are more marginalized. They have all these bullshit rules that if you don't abide by you get crucified. It's so sick and super toxic. And the shit they say about thinner people is so horrible. I'm a bigger woman, size 18-20, myself, and I think it's gone way too far in the wrong direction. Health at every size is super bogus, and I would love to see the movement switch back to what it originally was. I know this sounds kinda heated, but I do not hate morbidly obese people, specifically women. I'm all for loving yourself and your body as is. In fact, I do not believe that what you look like determines your worth. At all. But, if you feel like getting healthy and losing some weight, then hell yeah, I'm going to cheer you on. You are then on a road to becoming healthier, undoubtedly happier, and a longer life. God forbid you mention diet culture to the current subscribers of the body positive movement. They will eat you alive, literally. My hands are scarred and calloused from psoriasis. I was told I don't fit in, because I'm not fat enough. I thought the movement was for body positivity, not fat positivity. Or to discuss weight in a healthy way. I actually agree with the original concept of the movement. People shouldn't be treated poorly for being overweight. It's not right to deny someone access to resources, be cruel to them, etc., because they've made some mistakes and have ended up overweight. There's a million reasons people end up overweight, and without knowing someone's story, you shouldn't assume they just are weak or stupid or whatever. But it became this huge circle jerk of people telling each other everything they were doing was alright, that no change was needed, that they were healthy. That's ridiculous. You're not healthy, Sheila, you can barely stand. If the body positivity movement were a little more productive, and I agree a lot more inclusive of people with disabilities, dysmorphia, critically underweight people, etc., then it would be a great thing. Just Spiraled argues it was founded in the heart of third-wave feminism. I used to get really angry about this too. But I started thinking, maybe it's good for overweight people to learn to love their bodies and in conclusion taking care of them by losing weight. It shouldn't be a place for obese people to justify their unhealthy lifestyle. All I'm saying is, losing weight probably works better and more consistently if you do it based on a positive mindset and not because you hate your body. 100% self-hate and stigma do not make anything better. More likely you get trapped in cyclical punishing diets that cause weight gain, end up with an eating disorder, or are just too miserable to find the motivation. These only make health worse. Absolutely. Wanting to change yourself because of self-loathe rarely turns out successful. Learn to like yourself and then change for your own benefit. Fat positivity is stupid in a way, but so is fat shaming. This is exactly it. I went from overweight to a healthy weight with positive diet changes and exercise, but I still have the mindset that I'm overweight and I still hate my body. I lost weight with the mentality of I freaking hate looking at myself, and that mentality never left. I think the issue is that the overall body positivity movement is often conflated with the healthy at any size movement. Body positivity is mostly beneficial. Healthy at any size, however, is based on self-destruction, and willful ignorance of science, nutrition, and health. Love yourself no matter what, but treat yourself like you love yourself. If you wouldn't abuse anyone else you love, don't abuse yourself. For those of you who might disagree with my assessment of highs, let me ask you this: if there were a movement called Healthy at Any blood alcohol level devoted to spreading awareness that being a functional alcoholic was not only healthy, but beneficial in many ways, what would your first reaction be? That reaction is what a lot of people feel when they hear about highs. It's the reasonable reaction to learning about a group of people ignoring science and glorifying their addiction. Fat acceptance is acceptable so far as treating them politely and seeing them as human beings. Where it gets unacceptable is needing to adjust to requirements that don't help us, or the more enabling them to continue destroying their bodies if they can help it. I maintain that overeating is not loving your body. True, but there's a lot of I'm never gonna change and you're oppressing me by saying that obesity isn't healthy. They are not learning to love themselves and then taking care of their bodies. There are many who are in pain and who have terrible health but are determined to not change. If you believe those people are out to take a stroll through our fat logic, it's not nearly as toxic as some make it out to be, and lately there's been an increase in screenshots of people who claim that diet culture and fat phobia is really just racism. In short, it would be great if these folks took the idea of loving oneself to mean taking care of oneself and getting healthy, but they seem to largely use body positivity as an excuse to continue to be unhealthy and to be super shitty towards anyone smaller than themselves. The sad thing is it's really twisting people's minds and making them think it's healthy. I don't care if this offends people, but being obese is really unhealthy and people shouldn't be proud of it. That's the bad part of it for sure. If you're overweight, you should be able to be happy and confident and not insulted, but you shouldn't ignore the health implications or think that being overweight is something to aspire to. I think both should receive support. Life is too short to be down about yourself, whether it's self-inflicted or not, but I do agree that there should be a distinction between body positivity and body complacency. An overweight person shouldn't feel like a failure or be depressed because they're overweight, but they also should be actively trying to lose weight for the health benefits instead of justifying it. Yes, body positivity is great, but fat size acceptance is a thing as well. Assuming someone who is fat wants to lose weight, or always assuming someone who is skinny is more healthy or valued, is dead wrong. A person's weight isn't a problem until that person says it is, and piling on is just cruel. Losing weight is not necessarily healthy, and people shouldn't assume someone who is losing weight is doing better for themselves, as anorexia and illness sometimes at play. Some bodies are just bigger than others, and it's no one else's business. If a person gets fat because they're eating poorly, so what? Do people feel morally outraged or shame smokers, cutters, sedentary people or drug addicts in the same way? Absolutely not. It all ties back to the male gaze, and it's gross. Somehow fat is equated with being ugly. It isn't the fat person's job to look more attractive for stupid jerks on the internet, it's the job of stupid jerks on the internet to get the F over it. All most people need to do is stop equating being thin with attractiveness, and it's all suddenly obvious why this is so messed up. Unless someone is their lover or doctor, commenting on another person's body is not okay, and it shouldn't be normalized even for health reasons. Sorry for the novel and or being internet loud, but I'm just putting this here for someone who needs to see it, as I feel this sub can be a breeding ground for fat hate posts. I think you missed the point. It's not obese people telling themselves it's okay to eat cake and be unhealthy. It's telling themselves and others that it's not okay to shame people for their health and mental issues. They know they're obese, and that it's not healthy. They know they should change their lifestyle to be healthier. They just want to stop others from shaming them, and stop themselves from being too hard on themselves. Exactly, being unhealthy doesn't mean that they are unworthy of respect. I believe the issue isn't that obese people are a part of the movement but that they are the whole movement. I agree with this. The body positive movement shouldn't just be about women with weight issue. The body positive movement has become a joke. What I don't understand is why people need to have an opinion on their bodies, lives, choices of other people just minding their own business. Most people are just trying to get through the day, if they were fat, skinny, disabled, able-bodied, gay, straight or anything in between. A select few push things in the faces of others, but for the most part people are unwilling subjects to you and your opinion on them and what's wrong with them and their lives, life choices. 90% of them didn't ask for you to pass judgment on them. They didn't shove it in your face. They just existed living a life as they themselves wish to live it. Your opinion isn't needed, nor wanted. People shit on overweight people. There are a huge range of reasons why people are overweight, which sometimes have all to do with cake, but the go-to attack is lack of self-control. They don't owe you an explanation as to why they're fat. Maybe they have PCOS, maybe they have a thyroid problem, maybe they suffer from depression and take medication that, despite how much they exercise and diet, leaves them bloated and overweight. Should they not be allowed to accept their bodies and find some peace? Why do you get to decide that they should be ashamed? Shall we make them wear signs so we know who's fat just because cake, and who's fat for valid reasons? The same goes for most things in life. If it's got nothing to do with you, F off. Don't make fun of the girl with cystic fibrosis. Don't bully the lesbian. Don't exclude the fat girl. Don't pass judgment on the guy with depression. The list goes on. God forbid any of these people try to live their lives and accept themselves for who they are. Maybe they should go and eat some cake, and hang themselves. Honestly, this is one massive circle shit. Let's just shit on everybody so that we all feel shit. Because making someone else feel shit makes me feel good for 5 minutes. I'll probably get massively downvoted for this. But I'm overseeing this same unpopular opinion 103,474 times a week. I'm going to give an example. My mother. My mum is, and always has been, beautiful. Model beautiful. Ad campaigns for known international brands, been in everything from national rag mags to Vogue. Her whole life she was thin, she stayed on a strict diet and exercised several times a week. Nothing obsessive, but she took care of herself. My mum has always struggled with depression. After her divorce, she hit a bad patch and was given a diagnosis. She was put on medication, and honestly, she has never been so balanced and stable in all her life. Things are just going her way. It's great to see, she's doing amazing. But the meds made her put on a lot of weight. She stopped dressing up. She didn't like pictures being taken of her. It messed up her self-esteem massively. She's stricter with her diet than she was before, and she exercises more than she did before, but it doesn't matter. It won't budge. And there's not a piece of cake in sight. She deserves to be proud of herself, of how far she has come, of all the effort she's put into losing a couple of kilos. She deserves to feel beautiful. And screw you for saying otherwise. On to example number 2. A friend of mine was a gym rat who was real skinny. Exercise became her passion, and she decided to train to become a PT. She passed, and was chuffed. Hadn't switched careers just yet though, because she found out she was expecting. She was over the moon. But the pregnancy was tough on her. She was on bed rest for months on end. And it got her down. The kilos started to creep up, but she comforted herself thinking she would go back hard when the baby was born and she those kilos. She had the motivation. She had the knowledge. and she absolutely loved working out. After her daughter was born, she was diagnosed with Sjogren's, as well as a host of other autoimmune diseases. Doctors told her that in a couple of years she might be in a wheelchair. That hit her pretty hard. She was in a lot of pain and ended up doing chemo and physiotherapy, but it didn't help. The kilos kept coming and coming and coming. This time, yes, a bit of cake was involved. But she was sinking. She was then put on cortisone, and everything just swelled up. Honestly, the month that went by when I didn't see her from one time to the next was a shock. She looked totally different. She stopped taking pictures. She stopped leaving the house. She fell into depression. Recently she decided to pull herself up out of her funk and hired a personal trainer. She decided to empower herself by taking pictures with her kids again and allowing them to be seen online. She just wanted to feel worthwhile, and this was part of her journey back to herself. But of course, you don't consider this crap when you see an overweight person. You just think it must be cake. F her for wanting to feel good about herself, she should be ashamed. She should go through life hiding in the shadows because of judgment you want to pass on her. You get one life to live, let these people live their lives. Why don't you spend some time focusing on your own life and leave these people alone? I've seen BP stuff around scars and many other things. Maybe you're right that it has more focus on weight compared to other important elements, but that doesn't mean it's wrong for weight to be a part of it. Also, weight isn't all one thing or another. People often seem to go one way or another in their views on it, and that's too simplified. I know fat people ranging across the spectrum, from someone who has an Addison's-like disease where the high-dose steroid treatment has a huge impact, through to people who just eat crap and don't care, with most situations being in the middle. For example, antidepressants amping up hunger but not directly affecting your body mass in the way that steroids do. There's loads of comments that make out fatness is all a choice, and then you get people respond in situations like this that imply every fat person has Addison's or something. But there's hella shades of grey in between. But bottom line, I don't think presenting body positivity is only conditional, based on validity of how a person came to have a stigmatized body, is good for anyone. Shoe on the other foot, do you want everyone to insist they need to know how you became scarred to decide if your scars make you ugly or not? That kind of conditional acceptance is not liberating, even for those who are considered valid in such judgments. Hi, as a fat girl, I'm 4 feet 10 inches and was sheltered indoors and discouraged from playing due to an abusive dad and have had depression that causes me to have spastic eating habits. I have stretch marks and scarring, and honestly, while I empathize with you, we're just as much vain as you are. We want to feel good about ourselves in spite of what we cannot control, and know we're beautiful always as human beings. No matter what I can do about my stretch marks, I can never get rid of them. And some people have weight for reasons you may not know of, like childhood trauma, or other psychological, personal issues, or even eating disorders, body dysmorphia. If someone wants to lose weight, it should be for their own well-being, but by using language like claiming that girls need an excuse to not be fat, well, that demonstrates precisely why fat girls, and fat boys, and fat women, fat men, and fat people of whatever gender or age group, should be included. Drive. Your frustration is valid, but suggesting the body positive movement should gatekeep or invalidate people with body weight differences isn't. There are a lot of women who show disability and skin complaints. Maybe, you just haven't found the right accounts yet. I think it is unfair to call them vain fat women. It takes a lot to go on social media and show yourself as being anything other than what the majority of people consider attractive. Counter-opinion. I can understand this thought process. However, I have grown to change it. Some are large by choice. Or by making poor choices. Sure. I can agree. But thinking about the why and learning has shifted my perspective. As being someone with body dysmorphia, I think you could relate. A lot of the times people start overeating because they are unhappy. They then develop this hatred of what they become. So they keep eating. Because they are sad. So they're stuck in a loop. They could go on a diet, I can't get rid of my scars. True. But when you eat food that's for sustenance. When someone in that cycle, that meal may be the only dopamine hit they get all day. It can be similar to a drug addiction. You wake up hating yourself, you eat a big breakfast because you're already sad, etc. etc. The worst part of it, they have to take that drug. Every day. Now think about the world we live in with ads and street food carts etc. It's like having heroin advertisements, open cooking kitchens, commercials screaming at you to shoot up. Part of body positivity is to help you take back control. To learn to love yourself first. To not let the high of eating control you. A larger person with bad mental health is two bad things. A large person with good mental health is, if nothing else, a win. One less person suffering in mental anguish is a good thing. So I'll take that. But it shouldn't end there. It should encourage people to continue taking agency of their life and lose the weight.